We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Prize Picks. Week 4, it's the big show. How's everyone doing today? First start sit show Q&A directly following this show. Going to be mixing in a little bit of fantasy stuff for you guys as well after a lot of requests. There's a link in the description for that if you want to hang out after this one. But today or this morning, as always, we're going to start position by position for the DraftKings slate, and then we're going to build a lineup at the end. How's everyone feeling? How was everyone's week 3? I feel like the lineups that we built on this show have either cashed or we've been injured so far this year. So we had the Joe Burrow stuff the week he goes down. Obviously, we have a ton of CD Lamb when he goes down, and then I think week 1 we cashed. But yeah, I think we're due. I think we're due for more than just a min cash on this show. So we'll build some lineups at the end. Hope everyone is doing well. We got all the prop betting stuff out, all the short form videos. I actually added a video for anytime touchdowns. So if you're a DGen that likes to just bet a touchdown in every single game, that's exactly what we did. We went game by game, and I had a lot of fun making that video actually. So I might make that a weekly thing if you guys are into that. And then excited for the start sit show after this one. There's going to be a separate link for that. So in the description, if you need some help with setting your fantasy lineup, that's the spot for that. But we're going to start this show like we always do with a poll. Week 4. There's a lot of interesting things going on, but let's start with who will be this week's highest owned player. If you're here for the first time, hit subscribe in order to get access to the chat. It's the only way for me to kind of fight the bots in the chat. So once you're subscribed, exclamation point vote space the number in order to place your vote for these polls. I like to get you guys involved. This is a collaborative experience. We have a lot of time before kickoff, obviously. So I want to get an idea of where you guys are at as well. So follow the people in the chat that have been here doing these polls for, 5-6 years now. I think we've been running polls on Sunday mornings. So I really enjoy this. So thank you for being here. Highest owned player week 4, Christian McCaffrey, Omarion Hampton, Puka Nacua, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, or other. What do you guys think? Highest owned player today on DraftKings. Who's it going to be? Are we fading the chalk today? Are we just jamming in? Oh, I don't want to give it away. I think there is one guy this week in particular that stands out as the highest owned. But I'm curious if we think the same. It does feel relatively tight on DraftKings in comparison to the last few weeks where you could kind of do whatever you wanted with some of the value that we had at running back. We talked about jamming in all the Walker. I think he was on the thumbnail last week. So we got a ton of the Walker stuff. In general, the Masons, like the Mason $5,500 player or the Walker $5,800 player, we don't necessarily have that today, but we have some really nice expensive players to pay up for. So what do we got here, friends? Slim thinks it's going to be Scatty. I like the take, Slim. And just if you want your vote to count, my man, you have to actually, if you have a note, I love hearing like who your guy is going to be that's not on this poll. But the only way it's going to count is if you do exclamation point vote, space the number, hit enter. It's very touchy, these polls. And you got to remember the space as well. What do we got here? We got some Omarion Hampton love. We got some Puka Nacua love so far. Interesting. Who we got in the chat? Casey Bone's in here. What's up, my man? Casey Bone. Justin's in here. Wayne Casey, Joe Milk, Derek Hill. What's up, guys? How we doing? Toby Booth. What's up, Toby? How's it going, man? Hat on backward. Renegade Knoll. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, man. Good luck. We need a good one today. I'm feeling good. Johnny Mac, what's up, my man? Ryan, J.R. Heineke. What's up, J.R. Heineke? How we doing, brother? How we doing? Mitchell's in here. What's up, man? Are we back? We are back. Can confirm. Best background tunes. The people love the background tunes. I actually forgot to start it this morning. Normally we get like a good 10 minutes to chill before the live stream. And I'm sitting here, I'm just like, normally I've got this music in my ears and I don't have it. Tough seeing. What's up, Ryan? How's it going, my man? Hulkamania gonna run wild week 4. Let's go. R.I.P. Hulk. A Bizzle's in here. What's up, A Bizzle? How's it going? The good fella. Who else we got in here? Frederick. What's up, Frederick? How's it going, brother? Salt River Hillbillies. How's it going, man? How's it going? David's in here. What's up, David? Brian Santos. What's up, Brian? How's it going, man? Eric. Whit Hesser. Learned my lesson blowing smoke at the Vikes last week. Congrats against my Bungles. Yeah. That was a tough game, man. My wife had some friends in town that are Bengals fans. So some of the Bengals cheerleaders were here, went out to dinner, did the whole thing. They were, or some of the husbands were talking a little bit of trash. No, they weren't actually. They were great guys. But you always feel for some people that travel all that way and then just get absolutely blown out. Like I've been on the other side of that before too. It's brutal. Good morning. What's up, Baby Bizzle? How's it going? Pickens, Egbuka, London, please. Gene, we're probably going to try and do all the start sit stuff on the start sit stream in about an hour. So I can answer your question then, my man. All right, so far we got Puka and Amari and Hampton leading the way. Yeah, I honestly think that Puka might be close to double the ownership to Amari and Hampton. I think McCaffrey's right there as well. If you're paying up, to me, it feels like McCaffrey or Puka, and there are some rosters you can build with both. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Let's move to quarterback though, and we can kind of talk through. I think some stacking options early, but also just like game environment. So if you've never been here before, we go position by position, but I want to give you guys like the bird's eye view of what we're thinking for this slate in general. So a couple of the games that I think actually could be up in pace. We got the Chicago and Las Vegas game, Baltimore at KC. I think there's gonna be some pace there, and then New Orleans at Buffalo. We got that big spread in Buffalo, right? So at the quarterback position, who do we think is the top QB play today? Price considered, sub only vote. Drake May, Geno Smith, Caleb Williams, Jackson Dart in his first career regular season start, Marcus Mariota, Matthew Stafford, or other. What do you guys think here? What do you guys think? It is a tough day, I think, to pay up for quarterback. Josh Allen with a 14.5 point spread against New Orleans. Crazy. We need salary, though. We need some salary. Warren is out for this morning's game. Oh, yeah, that game's. I forgot there's a London game. That's right. That's right. I have a video up for that one as well. Is that one started yet? Doesn't that one start like at 8, I thought? Get him out of your lineup if he's in there. Justin Herbert. Interesting. Okay. We're kind of flat at quarterback right now in this poll. Okay. Interesting. I think it feels like one of those slates where there's a lot of different price points that you can go to that project pretty well from even like a point per dollar standpoint. But I think paying down a quarterback is my preference today. So it's like, how far down do I want to go? We got Jackson Dart all the way at 4,500. We got Drake May for 1,000 more. Is it worth paying 1,000 more for Drake May? We'll see. Mariota kind of right in between, 5K, right? And then there's some options that I think the only way you back into some of these other quarterbacks is if you end up late swapping, most likely. We got some others in the chat, though. What we got here? 8:30. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we got 15 minutes. I have a video for did I just call it the London game? It's not the London game, the Dublin game. So if you're looking to bet the Dublin game, you got 15 minutes to do it. Go to YouTube Shorts. There should be a video there. There should be a video there. The anytime touchdown I think I had in that game was Jordan Mason, but I think I've taken a Jordan Mason touchdown every single week. Last week he got there. The first 2 weeks he did not. So do that with you may. All right. A lot of others. Okay. So we got a lot of Justin Herbert love. I consider putting him in the poll. Other people that put other. Who do you guys like today? Throw a dart on dart. I was waiting for that one, Aweb. I see what you did there. Do we get an Amon St. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown against the Browns? I literally can't even say it. It's so hard to say. Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown against the Browns. Can't do it. Already took the under for receiving yards on DK. Yeah, it's a tough matchup for him. Yeah. They've done pretty well just like limiting receptions in general. So, yeah. I am fading DK today. So I'm sure you guys will let me know in the chat when he catches an 80-yard bomb to start the game. Hurts is contrarian. Yeah, it's just hard from a roster construction standpoint. I think that like even the Philly guys every week project well as like contrarian darts. If you ended up moving into any of the AJ Brown stuff last week, yeah. Pickens or Chuba? Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep the start sits to the next show, my man. We're gonna try and work through some DraftKings stuff today. To me, I think the number one play is Drake May. And he's someone that we were hyping up in the offseason quite a bit. I think that you need the salary today. I don't think it's completely necessary to go down to Dart. Dart's got a much tougher matchup today than he will next week. But yeah, the Chargers defense is the real deal. I think they're missing a pass rusher, so that could help. But Drake May, yeah, this Panthers defense, I think it was a little bit of a mirage last week on how they kind of shut down Atlanta. Um, I mean, I still think this is a pretty bad defense in general, and May kind of gives us everything we need at quarterback. He's willing to move. He's also willing to throw the ball deep. Solid team total there as well. So I think that that's 5,500 for him. Feels pretty good at quarterback. I think I like Marcus Mariota a little bit more than you guys at 5K. You guys aren't on Mariota, huh? No Mariota love. He's like a 5K Jaden Daniels. He's going to dink and dunk up the field, but he's going to run for you. All of those things. I had a lot of Mariota last week in season long because I had a lot of Justin Fields injuries across some of my season long teams, but it seems like you guys don't like him. Brock Purdy. Okay. I actually considered putting Purdy. I think Purdy's probably a better play on FanDuel today. His price is absolutely egregious on FanDuel. Yeah. All right. We're pretty flat at quarterback, so I think we need to figure out what else we like then, right? What else we like? So let's start with running back. Best running back play today. Price considered though. So James Cook, Amarian Hampton, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Scattaboo, Kyron Williams, Ashton Genty. Will Genty get off the schneid? We will see. Other. What do you guys like at running back today? Top running back play today. Price considered. Are you paying all the way up for Christian McCaffrey at 8,500? Paying all the way down for Cam Scattaboo at 5,500? What do you guys like at running back today? Should I trade Saquon for a top tier receiver? I think it depends on where you're at in your season, my man. Are you 0-3? Do you need some assets? Do you need some wide receiver help? I'm not actively trying to trade Saquon. I know it hasn't been amazing so far. I don't think he has a run over 20 yards this year, which is crazy to say. And then, yeah, we'll do start sits on the next show. I'll also try and walk through some trade rest of season stuff as well, but want to keep this one to DraftKings because I know some people, that's all they're here for. That's all they're here for. We've been doing this show for a long time, since like 2020, maybe probably earlier, probably like 2018, something like that. A lot of James Cook love. Wow, okay. So you guys are not scared of that big spread. If they get ahead, Cook's probably going to get his. I tend to agree. He was my anytime touchdown in this game, which I know isn't like some huge stand to take or anything like that. At 7,100, though, I actually thought that some people would balk at that price, right? Right there with JT at 75. Amari and Hampton at 5,900 is the closest thing we have this week to just this massive underprice situation, obviously, with Najee Harris being out with that Achilles. Yeah, Amari and Hampton to me is probably one of the best plays on the entire slate. Definitely at running back. So with James Cook leading the way on Amari and Hampton, I find that interesting. And no one wants to vote for Christian McCaffrey. Do I need to give everyone permission to play Christian McCaffrey today? I miss the slates when you could just play Christian It wasn't even Christian McCaffrey. It was like David Johnson and Ezekiel Elliott in the same lineups. Just jam them in. Like when we finally started to get some running backs with like 25 touch upside, bunch through the air, bunch of touchdowns. Those were the days. Jamming in Christian McCaffrey and someone else feels pretty good too. Dart Scat Neighbors opens up a lot. That's interesting. Hey, Web. Getting a lot of JT. Yeah. Yeah, he's looked great. Yeah, the Jonathan Taylor stuff. Thank God we got like early word that Danny Dimes was going to be the QB there, because that like upgraded JT significantly to me. Like in the passing game, I know he hasn't like still been like a crazy pass catching running back for us or anything, but like the 3 to 4 targets that he's been getting, that's much better than what he would have got with Richardson. So I think we had like what, a month to recover before fantasy season. So I ended up with actually a decent amount of JT. Yeah. Yeah. Bell and DJ. That was it. Yeah. Le'Veon Bell and DJ. Those were the days. Those were the days. Amari and Hampton. Yeah. Najee out. Really no touch competition whatsoever. I think he got 25 touches last week after Najee went down. Another one of the anytime touchdowns that I took. Feel pretty good about it in that game, obviously. I think the Chargers are going to be ahead in this game. Actually picked up Chargers defense in a league as well against Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's an interesting one because it's similar to Drake May in some ways. He will run and he will definitely throw the ball downfield, right? Tyler Sperry, thank you for your super chat, my man. I guess that's the exception I'll make for the start sits. Appreciate that. Start Mason or Kyron. Mason or Kyron. Yeah, I think Kyron today would be my favorite. I think Kyron today. You don't have much time for this, so I'm gonna make sure I check that in the rankings here quickly. Actually, I have Jordan Mason ahead of him. I changed my mind. I have Jordan Mason at 9 currently, at running back 9 this week. So yeah, I think if you can get him in there over Kyron, that would be my lean. I think rest of season is closer. Rest of season's closer. So yeah, Mason for me. Thanks for that super chat, Tyler. What else we got? It's free to hit that thumbs up. That's true. That's true. Bucky Irving today. I feel like I keep saying it every single week, but I'm nervous about the injuries for Tampa Bay. Now that their wide receivers are getting healthier, we still have Evans out, obviously, but like the injury for Baker Mayfield, the offensive line injuries, it's just a really tough sell. Really tough sell. I'm surprised that no one wants to play McCaffrey. We have 2 votes for him. 8,500 still seems very cheap for a guy that has basically the best role in all of fantasy. 32 targets over 3 games. George Kittle still out. Yeah. Still going to get all of the carries near the goal line. Home favorite. Yeah, he's like one of my first guys in. Maybe I'm crazy. Trying to make Puka and CMC work is challenging though. So maybe that's what you guys are working through right now in rosters. Ashton Genty's an interesting one just because he's been like so brutal, but this offensive line has been one of the worst in the league. That's really held him back. But I think he makes a decent tournament play. We'll get to that shortly, but I think we need to talk through some wide receivers before we get there. Let's start at the top. This will probably be the fastest poll of the entire day. Top elite wide receiver play today. Sub-only vote, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors. If you're paying up for one wide receiver today, who is it? Casey Bone loading up on CMC. I think I'm with you. Steven still will have a bounce back today after fumbling twice. You don't think that they're going to punish him at all? I know they said in the media that they're not going to be punishing Ramondre. I don't know, man. Guy has been fumbling dating back to the last couple of years. He like hasn't really fixed that part of his game, which is scary. Purdy, CMC, Pearsall, stack, but don't have CMC other than that. Yeah, I think that it's fine with the stack with Purdy. Yeah. Puka Nacua. Yeah, I think we can close the poll. Puka Nacua is the top elite wide receiver play today by a decent margin. Talking about role for CMC, pretty clearly Puka Nacua has the best role from a wide receiver perspective. I think he leads the NFL in catches, 30% target share. I think that target share like extends basically into like last season as well. He's always kind of in like that 30 plus range, which is incredible. Obviously 7,900 for him. Decent matchup. I think at least if Indy can kind of push back a little bit on the other side, which I think they will, I think pretty clearly Puka Nacua, if we're paying up for wide receiver, this is the more interesting wide receiver poll. Top non-elite wide receiver play today. Sub-only vote, Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, Trey Tucker, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, Drake London, or other. There's a lot of names on this list. What do we like at like the non-elite side of wide receiver today? Thoughts? Any thoughts? We're gonna let this poll roll for a little bit. I just wanted to talk through as well. So the one thing that I try and focus on is game environment. So we talked about some up and pace games, high tempo games. Saints, Bills, Bears, Raiders, Ravens, Chiefs. Those are the games that I think are going to be projected for a lot more plays than usual, and some game environments that look especially appealing. Some slower games, Cleveland, Detroit, Tennessee, Houston, Carolina at New England. Those are some games that I don't want to be overexposed to personally. I know there's some Drake May love out there, and I like the May stuff as well, but I don't think I'm going to go overboard there. The games in general that kind of stand out to me from a fantasy perspective, obviously this Indianapolis and LA game. It's not a high tempo game, but I think there's going to be a lot of scoring and a lot of condensed target shares and ceilings. So we like that. Chargers at Giants, I think, is somewhat interesting as well because there's pieces on both sides. There's obviously pieces on the Chargers that are going to be pretty chalky. And then the Chicago, I mean, we've kind of just been targeting these Chicago games in general this year for being high scoring. So maybe this is the get right spot for Ashton Genty, like we talked about. There's obviously some weapons on the Raiders side of things that are a little bit cheaper that are interesting. Trey Tucker on this poll. I think those are the three games that I've kind of zeroed in on. I also like try and pay attention a little bit more to like defensive line versus offensive line stuff than most people, because that's what really limits efficiency at quarterbacks. So this Titans offensive line has not been great. Texans D line, pretty big mismatch there. Eagles as well against the Bucks. Like I mentioned, the Bucks are banged up, so I actually like the Eagles D today to get some more pressure. And I also think that while he definitely struggled last week, Browning is going to have a lot more time against this. Actually, I'm on the other side of this. Sorry. I meant to say Bo Nix because he really hasn't given us much this year, right? He's been probably the biggest disappointment at quarterback, myself included. I have some Bo Nix stuff. Um, Bo Nix versus Browning. Browning didn't have a ton of time last week against Minnesota. Probably not going to get much better for him against Denver, but it does end up looking pretty good for Bo Nix. Obviously, this Broncos defense on the other side is a little bit scary from a shootout perspective, but this Bengals D has given up really just a handful of touchdown passes over the last couple of weeks. So I think the upside for Bo Nix is actually kind of interesting. So Carson Wentz, Trevor Lawrence as well, multiple touchdowns against them over the last couple of weeks. So I kind of like the Bo Nix stuff as well, and haven't really heard many people talk about Bo Nix today. Kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. If you're trying to back into like some of the showdown stuff, right? But let's see what you think about these main slate mid-range wide receivers. Pay this man. He's the GOAT, Xavier Worthy. What's up, Noel? How's it going, my man? Gadsden for the fishy moonshot. Love it, dude. So you're not scared of the Xavier Worthy injury. Love it. Keep Shepard on your radar with Evans out. Okay, interesting. We got some Xavier Worthy love. I actually kind of like that game. I mentioned for pace, but like this Ravens defense has not been the same. If we can try and find some upside in KC, it's got a really high total. There's not a lot of ownership in this game. We may have uncovered one of the stacks we might back into today. We may have uncovered it. In terms of like ownership, though, like it's kind of another one of those slates where we do have a decent amount of ownership in the afternoon, right? We have a couple expensive players in the afternoon. Christian McCaffrey in your flex, Puka Nakua in your flex, something like that, right? That's where a lot of the ownership is going to be. And then these Raiders guys as well. Jacoby Myers, probably going to be like around 25%. So if we're looking for leverage in the afternoon, there's a lot that we can move to. And I think some of the KC stuff is actually pretty interesting. I think if you wanted to go into some Chicago stuff at like a lower ownership, you're not going to get much ownership on DJ Moore, Luther Burden, anything like that. I was hoping Devontae Adams would be a little bit lower owned than he's going to be. He's going to end up being a lot more chalky than I thought he would be early in the week. Brock Bowers is one of the ones that I think is interesting as well at 5,800. If he ends up being like 20% owned, that's a little bit annoying. If he ends up being like 12, he ends up being one of the better plays on the slate, I think, against Chicago. Obviously, he hasn't been on the injury report, which is weird. He's got that brace on his knee. The running backs that like, I guess in that range that give you the most upside for like leverage are probably like Derrick Henry at 7,200. If you need to like move away from some Puka Nakua, if you need to move away from some CMC, Derrick Henry still has a ton of ceiling there. Jonathan Taylor, not going to give you as much leverage, but still a great ceiling at like 15% versus like 30%. So that's somewhat interesting. There isn't as many like upside, like high price wide receivers to pivot into. Like you can move down to Zay Flowers, Roma Dunze, that tier, but it's not going to give you as much leverage. Roma Dunze leading the way on this poll, though. Interesting. Yeah, actually, really good matchup for the wide receivers on both sides of this game. Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, they're going to be relatively owned. I guess modestly owned. But Rome Dunze on the other side, we talked about him a decent amount last week as well. I think I have an anytime touchdown for Rome and Trey Tucker today. Went a little bit crazy in that game. Why can't I vote if I'm subscribed? I mean, you're typing in the chat. That means you can vote, my man. So you don't click on it if that's what you're trying to do. You have to, in order to vote, you have to do exclamation point vote space the number in the chat. Sorry if that's confusing, my man. And if anyone's here just trickling in, we are going to add a start sit fantasy football live stream directly after this. So I'll try and get to as many start sits as I can during that show. And you can talk through some rest of the season trade stuff as well. But we're going to try and keep this show to DraftKings and FanDuel stuff. Jacoby Myers, I thought would be getting a little bit more love in this chat, 17 or in this poll, 17% for him. I think like the Raiders passing game in general has been, I mean, much better than the run game, obviously. But even with like Brock Bowers kind of battling through this injury, it's actually looked pretty good. And this Bears secondary is one that we're pretty much targeting the entire season and will be continuing to target. They have some injuries as well. So I think this game has like actual like shootout potential. We talked about it being like one of the more up tempo games. Both the quarterbacks in this game, I think, are somewhat interesting as well. But Jacoby Myers at 5,400 is the one that feels like the most underpriced to me. Like Trey Tucker, I would say is like appropriately priced for the ceiling, the upside, the downfield role. But Jacoby is the one that I think could soak up a ton of targets here that maybe people just won't play enough of. Like even if he ends up being like around 20%, he seems kind of like a priority today at wide receiver. Am I crazy? I think I'm prioritizing him actually. Again, if you're just kind of trickling in, I think at quarterback, you're probably paying down for someone like Drake May. If you want to pay even further down for Jackson Dart on DraftKings, I think it's okay, but you're going to need salary in order to get into, I mean, one of or both of the top running back and the top wide receiver play, McCaffrey and Puka. And past that, Amari Hampton feels like a lock at that price. If you want to get into like some James Cook stuff, I think that the touchdown upside is always good there, but especially with this massive team total, massive spread. I think James Cook gets there. And then like there's all these other guys that I want to pay up for, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to from a price perspective, right? So JT, love JT today. Love Devontae Adams today. So Puka and Devontae Adams together, I think is actually fine, even if you're not playing Stafford. Both of those guys are going to get their targets. Chris Olave is someone we haven't talked about probably a ton the last few weeks, but we should be. I mean, the efficiency is not going to be there with Rattler at quarterback, but we're going to get a ton of volume and continue to get a ton of volume there to make up for it. And we're really just not seeing his price move. So I like Chris Olave a ton as well. I guess Drake London is a little bit like a poor man's Chris Olave in some ways. Like he's gotten the volume as well, but there hasn't been the ceiling from Drake London yet. I think this could be like a nice breakout spot for Drake London today. And I don't think a lot of people want to play Drake London. So if we're looking at kind of like the early slate of games, I want to get at least some information, right? Because most of the chalk is in the 4 p.m. slate. So can I play Puka? Can I play CMC? I want to know if I can lean into the chalk or if I need to get contrarian. And the best way to do that is to get some information early. So the chalk in the beginning is really kind of like that mid range at wide receiver, and then Amari and Hampton, James Cook. That's what we're looking at. Some of the tight end stuff, I guess, if you want to get Hunter Henry in there, but really the leverage to me is probably going to be like some of these Tampa Bay guys. If you wanted to back into there, I think the Philly guys are interesting for leverage as well. I would prefer to like try and get a little bit of like cheaper information, not like burn all my salary on Nico Collins or anything like that. But Nico Collins looks like he's going to be a decent leverage option early on as well. No one wants to play Lad McConkey today at 6,500. Emeka Egbuka 6,800. There's kind of like a nice mid range of wide receivers that are going to be super under owned. I wish some of these running backs were later on in the slate, but Saquon Barkley at 7,600 projects as one of the best leverage plays early on. Jahmyr Gibbs, both of those guys look really good and like sub 12%. So I like that. In terms of these guys, I think I like Jacoby Myers a little bit more than the poll. I know it's like 20% of the votes. Rome Odunze, again, continues to be solid backing into that game. I'm not going to talk you out of getting more wide receivers in that game. I also think I like Devontae Adams a little bit more than you guys. Devontae Adams is the one that I think is going to continue to have that touchdown upside. We took another anytime touchdown for Devontae this week. But also, it's so condensed there with Puka and Adams right now for a team that I don't think is going to have a ton of success on the ground. So yeah, I think Devontae Devontae at that price still feels like somewhat of a priority. Am I crazy? One vote for Devontae Adams is surprising to me at 6,200. Nobody is on AJ Brown. I feel like every week. Quentin Johnson, yeah, he's been good. Jacoby popping in my data. Yeah, and Jacoby looks great on my stuff too, my man. What the heck, man? Why are you not in Dublin? Fair. I should be in Dublin. Was in London last year. You guys got to keep me posted on that game. Nobody is on AJ Brown. Yeah, that's true. First place sack for the Vikings. Oh boy. A lot of AJ Brown today. Yeah, the passing, I guess, volume is always going to be an issue there, and I don't think Tampa Bay is. I don't expect them to play especially well in this one, but you'll get some early leverage for sure. Keenan Allen, I mean, continues to win targets. I think he's super safe. He's like one of those guys that I don't think has like a massive ceiling or anything like that, but from like a point per dollar standpoint, at 5,300, he looks pretty good. I think I prefer Jacoby to Keenan Allen personally. I definitely do. So let's close this one out. We'll keep talking about those guys, but I want to get into some lineup building here shortly. But let's get through tight end first. Top tight end play today, price considered: Brock Bowers, Brenton Strange, Tyler Warren, Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, Juwan Johnson, or other. What do we like at tight end today, friends? Is there anything we're like prioritizing paying up for or paying down for today? That's always the big question. I think I skipped right over news this morning, so I'm going to rip through some of that stuff as well. Looks like DeAndre Swift expected to play. Isaiah Likely expected to play against the Chiefs. We'll get him back. This is kind of a fun news item. Ian Rappaport reporting the Vikings at least considered signing Aaron Rodgers in the offseason, but they pretty quickly decided and informed Rodgers that they were rolling with J.J. McCarthy. Interesting. Devontae Adams, that hamstring is expected to play. Yeah, I'm not really that worried about the hamstring. I think if anything, that's just him trying to limit some practice reps. Juwan Jennings expected to play against the Jaguars, shoulder and ankle injury. So give Pearsall a slight knock there. Pearsall as well is working through like a knee, but he's expected to play also. Jonnu Smith active against the Vikings. Jaylen Warren inactive. We mentioned that before. I don't see a ton of other like crazy stuff that we didn't have earlier in the week. Colson Loveland not expected to play. What else we got? Tyreek Hill missed practice for a personal reason, but is expected to play on Monday. Tat McMillan expected to play. Do we have any Gonzalez news? He's playing today, right? Christian Gonzalez. Is Christian Gonzalez playing today? That'd be kind of a knock against some Tat McMillan stuff. Questionable for Gonzalez. Interesting. Okay. Hopefully we'll get some more news on that. Christian is playing. If Rodgers went to Minnesota, he'd be forever known as the Favre copycat. Yeah, why did apparently I say Jaguars in like the worst way possible, because anytime I do that by accident, people get upset. Jaguars. I guess I have a hard time saying Jaguars for some reason. I'm just call them the Jags. Sorry. I'm just gonna call them the Jags. People get real triggered by that though. Hunter Henry leading the way at the tight end position right now. Okay. I think that's fair. So Hunter Henry, get some early information there. 4K. If you have the salary, I would love to get to Tyler Warren. Would love to get to Tyler Warren. Leading the team in target share. It does feel like Daniel Jones is just looking for him constantly, and Daniel Jones has been very good this year. Like there's no sugarcoating it at this point. We're trying to find different players in that game to mix with our Rams. So I think Tyler Warren, especially on FanDuel, is the move. Tougher to get to on DraftKings though. I think if we're on DraftKings, I'm really just trying to find a cheaper option than that today. So it's probably Brenton Strange for me at 3,200. It doesn't feel great. We got zero votes for him in the chat right now, but he's the one that I think if we're paying down projects the best. I didn't put him on the poll, but actually kind of like Njoku a little bit too. if you want to go up to 3,800. Njoku versus Hunter Henry, I think is pretty similar. You're just going to get like half the ownership on Njoku. Detroit's actually given it up to tight ends a little bit this year. So I kind of like that as a contrarian option. Juwan Johnson at 4,200. They're going to be behind that entire game, so we get some passing volume there. Zach Ertz at 4,100. I think I like Zach Ertz a little bit more than Hunter Henry as well, but very similar plays. I think today we're just trying to correlate and make sure our tight end makes sense in our roster versus like try and cherry pick. Like these guys all feel the same to me. Like in this poll, outside of Bowers, obviously, and Tyler Warren, I think is a step above too. These guys all feel the same. So we'll work through tight end and roster construction. So this is the most important poll of the entire day. Favorite game stack. This is the roster that we're going to build on DraftKings as well. And I added the team totals here. So favorite game stack. Indy at LA, 49.5 point total. We don't have like a massive total today on the main slate. Baltimore KC, 48.5. Not a ton of ownership on Baltimore KC right now, but it's a little bit more tricky to stack. New Orleans at Buffalo, 48 point total. 14.5 point spread in that game. Chicago at Las Vegas, 48 point total. Jacksonville at San Francisco, 46.5. Cleveland at Detroit. LAC at New York Giants or other. I don't know why I added other. Don't vote other. You can vote other if you want. I'm trying to narrow in on what we actually want to build with our roster today. What are we thinking here? Pittsburgh defensive TD. No way. That would have been kind of a fun showdown slate. Mason fumble, Pitt takes it back for a TD. Whoa. Jeez. Skull Vikes. Favorite game stack, friends. We're going to build this roster. Probably build like I like building too. I like kind of giving you guys an idea of what I would do in late swap as well. We've been doing that the last couple weeks. I think that's a sharp way to go about this. But what are we thinking here? We got some Chicago at Las Vegas love to start. Interesting. Jalen Ramsey came up lame on the run back too. Ooh. Scott Miller, thank you for subscribing, my man. Welcome in. We had a couple other people earlier in the stream. Max, Raven, Brando. Welcome in, guys. We do this every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We're adding a start sit fantasy football show directly after this one. Review, overturn the TD. Let's go. Eagles, Tampa Bay. Yeah, I could have added them, Toby. They're kind of like late swap only for me, I think, this week, but I wouldn't kill you for going there. There's options on both sides. Chicago and Las Vegas leading the way so far with this poll. But we got like 175 people in here. Let's try and get this at least to like 25, 30 votes. I want it like this is pretty important. We're about to put real American dollars behind this lineup. Real American dollars. Overturned. What got overturned? I should have like had a like there should have been a way that I could put that video or that game on my screen somehow and not get demonetized on YouTube. Baker is scrappy, he'll keep it a game. I love Baker. He's like a fun guy to root for. Geno double with Odunze bring back. Yeah, the Geno doubles look good. Mason recovered it. Thank God. Out of bounds and touched the ball. Wow, okay. I don't think Caleb has ever had 2 games in a row. Fair. Fair. His defense is bad though, so I think there's going to be at least some plays, some pace in this game. That seems to be the consensus though. That seems to be the consensus. Let's close this one out. Let's close this one out. So then I think the question becomes, who was our QB today? We got Caleb and we got Geno. Who was our QB today? Who do we want at quarterback on this roster? Who do we want? Geno Smith, Caleb Williams. What do you guys think? Also, thanks again to Prize Pick for sponsoring this live stream. Free square on Prize Picks. I don't believe it's the Travis Kelce on the screen, but I believe it's a Dak Prescott this week. Forgot to change that one out. Oops. So if you use code HulkAlive, get that free square. Also, if you play $5, you get $50 instantly on Prize Picks, which is pretty sweet. Link in the description for that as well. Prize Picks. A lot of Geno love so far for the QB. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Who's the cheapest? What is the cheapest defense we can play today? Is it like Tennessee? Tennessee's probably the cheapest defense. There's a couple expensive ones, like the Bills are nice, the Chargers are nice, the Texans are nice, but I think if we want to pay all the way down, it's probably Titans. It's not ideal. Okay, so we're gonna go Geno Smith stack here. Let's get Geno in there. So what do we want to pair with Geno? And then if we go defense, I think it's Tennessee as like our placeholder. But what do we think is optimal here? I mentioned that Jacoby Myers was a priority for me today. You guys good if I put Jacoby in there? I like me some Jacoby Myers. So I would start there personally. What else do we want to prioritize here? I think the natural question next for me is, are we able to get Puka and CMC in, or is it just one of them? Is it just one of them? I think you can get both of them in pretty easily in a roster like this. But I'll leave that up to you guys. I think if we're going straight, like what is optimal, I think trying to get both those guys is a priority. New England defense or Vegas defense? I probably don't want to play Vegas defense with this roster because we need the touchdowns to come through the offense. Pay down for tight end. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Do we get Puka and CMC in here? I think that is the question. I think we can do it, though. I think we can do it. Like, are we still able to play like Amari and Hampton if we do that? Probably not. I guess that's the question. If we getting in Amari and Hampton, CMC, and Puka is probably impossible. So we'd have to give up Amari and Hampton. So is it one of them or both? Yes, very easy. Yeah. Let's start with both and just see where that leads us. So if we get CMC and Puka in there, this is a pretty heavily owned team at this point, right? So we're gonna have to figure out a way to get a little bit unique, but I think we can stack this up in a unique way somehow. So at tight end, we're probably gonna need someone on the cheaper side. There's a million different directions we could go with this. I mentioned that Njoku, I think, is somewhat interesting. He's relatively cheap. Strange is going to be probably the chalkiest option in this range. Actually, doesn't look that bad. Let's put Strange in as a placeholder because I think he's the best cheap option in that one. So then we get our mini stack with McCaffrey and Strange. So I think with these final three roster spots, we do need to get, I think, a little bit more contrarian. So is there a mini stack that we like? Do we want to try and get in something from Indy here? We want to add to this. Well, we can obviously add to the Bears side too. Rome Odunze seems like the one that makes the most sense. If we just get Rome in here, what does that leave us with as like salary for the remaining? I think we want to try and get something relatively contrarian in this. But is maybe the easiest way to get different on this roster, is it to play Genty? Like, he hasn't been used in the passing game a ton, but he did have 4 targets 2 weeks ago. He just hasn't done anything with it, right? But we're playing for touchdowns. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this in like a unique way. I don't think many people are going to play Geno, Jacoby, and Ashton Genty in there in the same roster. What's like a different roster construction we can do to actually bet on this game in a unique way is kind of what I'm thinking through, right? We got McCaffrey and Puka together, so that kind of limits what we can do, but it's at least interesting. Genty's not that guy, pal. He's not that guy. Fair. We could get really weird with some of these other Chicago run or wide receivers if we need to. That could get us into a Genty. If we didn't go Genty, we still have a decent amount of salary to work with, though. I think we need to find a way to add to this stack, though, personally. We got to find a way. What do you guys think? Ted or Bowers? Always do two tight ends. I hate the two tight end stuff. You guys know that. I almost never do the two tight end stuff. What do we think here? So if we're just looking purely off of like, I think we need this second running back slot. I think needs to provide a little bit of leverage for us, right? We can't quite get to JT. There's not enough salary, but that would have been a nice, interesting way to go through it. Scattaboo, 5,500. What does that leave us with? 5,500 in the flex then if we get Scattaboo. I was trying to figure out a way that we could get into this Chargers Giants game, right? So we could do like a Quentin Johnston Scattaboo. What do you guys think about that? Sub 10% for Quentin Johnston, you'll get probably like 12% on Scattaboo. So like not a crazy low owned mini stack here. I guess is this team too high owned in general? We basically here's what we're looking at. We got Gino, skinny stack with Jacoby, Odunze on the other side. So not like a crazy high game stack like we normally do. We got the cheapest defense in there. We got Quentin and Scattaboo. We got McCaffrey and Strange. And then we got our one-offs with Puka. Our one-off with Puka. Is this too cute? Hampton replaced Myers with Tucker. Ooh, I like the Tucker stuff. Fade Puka, play Kyron. That's interesting. Yeah, so like what are some of the best leverage options? Okay, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Okay. So best leverage off of Puka. Probably Kyron. Yeah. Probably Kyron. Devontae still correlates really well to him. Is there a big leverage like opportunity off of CMC? Do we get in someone else from San Francisco? Interesting. So if we take out Puka, let's take out the Scattaboo and Quinton for a second. I'm just curious what this gets us to if we go Kyron. I kind of like the Tucker angle, and then that leaves us with a ton of salary. We can get a low owned Bijan in there. I mean, that does a ton for our roster. At that point, we could probably get up to Warren. We're basically blowing up this entire team. If we went up to Warren, we could get into some Malik Neighbors stuff. No one's going to play Malik Neighbors today. That's interesting. Maybe get 10% on Neighbors. I don't know. I don't know if I like this team better though. Actually, the Tucker thing is interesting. So if we didn't go Kyron, and we go back to Strange here, if we switched Puka to Adams, what does that leave us with? 8,500 in the flex. So we could get to like a mini stack like Adams JT as well. Kyron with Warren. You guys like the Kyron stuff? Kyron wasn't like he's probably like fifth or sixth on my my favorites today, but I don't hate it. I like the idea if we're going to play Geno, we get Myers and Tucker in there. So I think that's fair. We got Rome on the other side. I think that's fair. McCaffrey and Strange as a mini, I think makes some sense. If we go JT, what does that leave us with? 7,200 in the flex. JT, Derrick Henry for all the money. JT Cook. This does kind of feel like we're just lacking some firepower, though, at wide receiver. Just feels like we're lacking a little bit. Let's play this out if we didn't go McCaffrey, because then we probably get Hampton in there. We have, oh, that's not the guy I wanted. Puka. Crazy amount of salary still if we go this direction, so we could probably get up to Warren. 8K left. This is kind of an interesting build, because then we can get into like a Saquon or Gibbs team, or we just keep going with Jonathan Taylor. What's Taylor and Warren have to negatively correlate a decent amount though? Yeah, Tyler Warren doesn't really correlate well to anyone but Daniel Jones. That's if we have Puka on this roster. Kyrie needs to be in every lineup today. Wow. You guys seem like you feel very strongly about the Kyron stuff, so I'm going to listen to you. So we're going to take Puka out. Let's put Kyron in here, see where we're at. If we're not playing Puka, I think we have to get in CMC. At tight end, we could, just play this out for a second. We're 100 away from getting Hampton on this roster with Bowers. So just full explosion from Geno Smith. That's what this one would be, basically. We can't get Hampton in, though. We'd be looking at like a Xavier Worthy one-off, a Drake London one-off. I don't hate it. Do we like Bowers on this team, I guess, is the question. At 5,800. I just don't love this slate to pay all the way up for Brock Bowers. I think it's probably just the mini stack with Strange and McCaffrey. And then we figure out if we want to just like go fully up to someone like Bijan. What's Bijan's ownership going to look like? 15%, something like that. I just feel like we have a lot of salary to work with now. Jonathan Taylor, we have nothing basically from that LA game. Does that concern you guys at all? Oh, we got Kyron. We could play both running backs in that game. Move up at defense, something like that. Too many Raiders, yeah. TD Steelers. How about fading Puka for Devontae? We could. We could. I kind of like the Kyron leverage, though. I think you guys have talked me into that. You guys have talked me into it. So I think the only thing that I'm not sold on is maybe Titans D. Like if we go up defense, what is it like? I think Texans is probably the one. They have a decent offensive line versus defensive line matchup, which I like. So if we just go up at defense, that gets us into like flex category of like St. Brown, Henry, Cook. Is no one going to play Derrick Henry today? Ooh, that's a really nice leverage option, actually. What do you guys think about Derrick Henry against KC at like 5% ownership? He like coming off the fumbles, all that stuff. Would it surprise anyone if Derrick Henry just went completely crazy today? Like, do we like what do we like versus like Henry, Cook, Amon Ra? James Cook probably has the highest ceiling, but like doesn't really differentiate us a ton. Paul, thanks for subscribing, my man. Cook, definitely undervalued today. Cook feels interesting. I kind of like the Henry leverage option too, because I think we have some ownership here. So Kyron and Henry together would be pretty unique. Texans D. That's like the paying all the way up version. If we move down a defense, we could get into like this Saquon or Jonathan Taylor tier. Who gives us more leverage today, Saquon or Henry? Probably Henry, right? The big dog. Thank you for that. $6.99 Canadian, Andre. Let me look at this very quickly since it's a super chat. We are going to be doing a start sit show directly after that. To me, yeah, I think it's probably my A model has Henry as the best play on the slate. Noel, there you go. We got there. I was kind of leaning towards the Henry stuff in general, just because if he's going to be like 5%, that seems like one of the easiest plays on the slate to make. CJ or Dak, and for wide receiver two, Ridley, Waddle, or Kirk. Yeah, I think Stroud probably is like slightly ahead of Dak for me today. I got CJ at 20, so like neither one are great options. And then I probably would go Jalen Waddle for wide receiver two. Andre, thank you for your super chat, my man. Okay, let's go with this for now. And then I do want to do like a late swap version of this, right? So I'm going to save this so we have it. Let's save it. And then I'm going to bring this back up actually. And then let's figure out who of these are late game. So we got Henry's late game. We got McCaffrey and Strange's late game. Oh, our entire roster is late game. So we're not getting much information here. That's kind of a bummer. We're basically just getting Texans D. So this doesn't really shape up as like a crazy late swap scenario. So I guess the ownership early in the slate that we're looking at, let's play the scenario that like those guys go completely nuclear. So we get like Amari and Hampton with like 35 points, James Cook with 35 points. Like maybe we're behind. Maybe Chris Olave, Drake London go crazy, something like that. I think there's like, if we're just looking at pure late swap equity upside in the 4 p.m. game, I probably will want to build something around Baltimore and KC. We just talked about Henry. There's some fun stuff that you can do in this game. Mahomes is like, if we wanted to stack up Mahomes, how would we do it? Are we scared of the worthy stuff? Like, what happens with Mahomes, I guess, if you had to like try and find some late swap, like something super contrarian, if something weird happens in the beginning? Who would be like our priority swap options with Mahomes? If we wanted to like really game stack that one up. Xavier Worthy. Okay. Worthy Kelsey. I think that makes some sense. So let's play this out. So I think the other option we could go with would probably be like Hampton is a guy that I think is one of the better plays on the slate, obviously. So he would probably be on this roster. And you would probably you would have a ton of salary just because CMC and Puka, all of that. I would say you would want to pick one of those guys. So let's just say for the sake of this argument, we play McCaffrey. And then we try and build a Mahomes team around that. So maybe we have Texans D already in there. So what's a Mahomes team that we could build around this is kind of what I'd be looking at. So let's go Mahomes. On the other side, we could play Henry as well. I always like the idea of Henry on the other side of stacks just because he speeds up the game with big plays. He scores touchdowns, all of those things. So I actually think that you could put Flowers in it, obviously. But I think I like the Henry side better. So if we were building around Mahomes, and we have Henry on the other side. What's the optimal way to go about this? We could get Kelsey in at tight end, sure. We could just play Isaiah Likely. We could do that. Kelsey is the one that just like doesn't project that well, but I think we probably would have to do it on this roster. I think we probably would have to. So let's get Kelsey in there. I don't like Likely and Henry together. I don't like Andrews and Henry together. So I like this. Do we think that Thornton and Xavier Worthy play the same role now? I guess that's the question I would have to ask. Because I kind of think there's a chance that Worthy ends up doing like a little bit more of like the Rashee Rice, and Thornton still continues to be like that deep threat. So this is how I would probably build it. I would probably go with something like this, and then you got 4,400 at wide receiver to go to. So to me, that's probably like a Tucker one-off. This is probably how I would build this. So more contrarian version of our first roster. So Mahomes, Worthy, Thornton, Kelsey. So all of those guys together. Mahomes throwing 5 TD passes. We get Derrick Henry some big plays on the other side. We got Texans D paying up early. We got Amari and Hampton early. We still got our CMC one off, and our Trey Tucker one off. I think this is how I would do it. Cool. All right, guys. Start sit show in like 5 minutes. There's a link in the description if you guys want to meet us over there. I'm actually going to drop that in the chat. Might as well. We have the technology, right? We have the technology. Meet us over there. I'm going to do it on a different link so that this can actually be useful for people that are checking this out in the next couple hours. So we're spamming the chat. That's where I'll be in 5 minutes. Do some start sits, talk through some rest of the season stuff, fantasy stuff. If you're just here for the DraftKings and FanDuel stuff, appreciate you guys. This is always a good time, and we'll see you guys next week. Good luck.